I made a build a while back on this Solar Titan build, and the majority of the build is causing tons of ignitions. Well, in this video, I'm going to do the same thing, but on the Hunter. So 1, you're going to cause tons of ignitions, 2, a lot of scorching effects, 3, infinite amounts of restoration and radiant, and lastly, you're also going to be getting an insane amount of class ability energy. If all of that sounds cool, the dim link will be in the description. If you are one of those people that would like to see all of the whole shebang for this build all in one screen, it would be right here. Also, if you guys need help in Destiny 2 endgame content such as raids, dungeons, or Grandmaster Nightfalls, I do a lot of helps on my live streams, so if you guys are interested, it would be in the link in the description. For the exotic armor piece, I am using this helmet called the Wormhusk crown. Here's what it does. Whenever you dodge, it would give you small health and shield bump. So our main goal for this build is to, of course, get tons of class ability energy if we're going to want to spam this nonstop. For the super ability, it does not really matter which super you could choose from, but for me, I'm using Blade Barrage, just because of the base cooldown. On to the abilities. For the class ability, go for Marksman Dodge, because whenever you dodge, it will reload your equipped weapon. For the solar melee, you can choose any of the melees you like, but for me, I love putting Knife Trick. For the solar grenade, I chose to put Healing Grenade because of an extra way of healing yourself and your teammates as well, because the exotic weapon we're using is going to hurt us. So by having this, we will have a higher chance of surviving. On to the aspects. The first one I chose to put is On Your Mark. Precision final blows grants you and your nearby allies increased weapon handling and reload speed for a short duration, and it would also stack up to 3 times. But if you were to activate your dodge, it will give you all of your stacks back. The next aspect is Gunpowder Gamble, because it did get a buff recently, so that's why I chose to put it, and also it's another way of causing an ignition. Whenever you defeat targets with solar abilities, solar debuffs, or solar weapons, it will charge up an improved solar explosive. So in order for you to proc this aspect, you're going to need to get 6 charges. But the thing is, when using this aspect, is that whenever you have 6 charges, it will override your healing grenade. So instead of you healing yourself with the healing grenade, you're actually going to be throwing your Gunpowder Gamble. So be sure to keep that in mind when using your healing grenade, when you need healing. For the fragments, there are going to be 5 in total, and let's start with the first one. Go for Ember of Ashes. You apply more scorch stacks to targets. If we do have this one on, the exotic weapon we are using, we would have a higher chance to cause an ignition. The second fragment is Ember of Singeing. Your class ability recharges faster when you scorch targets. So this is the main one for you to spam your dodge to also give you healing. The third fragment I chose to put is Ember of Eruption. Your solar ignitions have increased area of effect, but you would get plus 10 strength. And for this one, I wanted to get a higher amount of ad kills when I proc the ignition. For the fourth fragment I chose to put is Ember of Eruption. Solar weapon or ability final blows extend the duration of restoration and radiant effects applied to you, but you would get minus 10 resilience. So this is the fragment that would give you infinite amounts of healing and restoration. And the last fragment I chose to put is Ember of Solace. Radiant and restoration effects applied to you have increased duration. I decided to put this one on because whenever I would hit myself with my healing grenade, I would not have a chance to get a kill with my solar weapon. So by having this, we would have a more of a chance to proc Ember of Empyrean when you proc restoration. Now onto the weapons. For the kinetic weapon, I chose to put this Strand fusion rifle called the Scatter Signal just because of the seasonal artifact mods. So the 2 main ones that would buff this fusion rifle is on the 4th column called Unraveling Orbs. Whenever you pick up an orb of power, it would grant your weapons, or should I say strand weapons, unraveling rounds. And on the 5th column, it's called Horde Shuttle. Damaging unravel targets with a weapon occasionally spawns a threadling. And you can also be able to stun anti-barrier champions because of the 4th column, because we are getting unraveling rounds. For the perks for this fusion rifle I chose to put is on the 3rd column called Overflow. So upon picking up special or heavy ammo, it will refill and also overflow the magazine from reserves, and this perk also activates if this weapon is stowed. And on the 4th column, go for Controlled Burst, because whenever you get a kill or land every shot, it would grant 20% increased damage, and it would also give you 10% decreased charge time for 2 seconds. The origin trait for this fusion rifle is Dragon's Vengeance. When an ally dies or you reach critical health, this weapon's magazine refills and it gains bonus range, charge rate, and also handling. So on the energy weapon, the exotic weapon we're using for this build is the Tommy's Matchbook. So the longer you shoot with this auto rifle, it will overheat it target, and it would also increase damage, but it would burn the user. The weapon perk for this auto rifle is Heat Sink. The overheat damage is reduced when you do not ADS. So if you're one of those people that do not want to die very quickly when using this auto rifle, just don't aim. But that weapon perk is kind of useless because we already have exotics and fragments and abilities that would help us get health. And here's what the catalyst does. So while you're holding down the trigger on this auto rifle for a long time, your health recovers more quickly and sustained fire scorches your target, which will proc Ember of Singeing, which will give you 300% increased class ability regeneration. And for this exotic weapon, you are going to be stunning unstoppable champions and overload champions at the same time, because one, for overloads, we do have overload auto rifle and the artifacts, and two, we're going to be proccing a lot of ignitions with this auto rifle, and that's the weakness for unstoppable champions. And for the power weapon, you can choose any other weapon you feel comfortable with, but for me, I chose to put Edge Transit, and here are the perks that you should be using for this grenade launcher. Of course, you can get this grenade launcher in a shiny version, so I'm going to explain all 4 of the best perks for column 3 and column 4. So on the third column, be sure to go for Envious Assassin. Whenever you defeat targets with other weapons before drawing this one, it would transfer ammo to the magazine from reserves. This effect can overflow the magazine based on the number of targets defeated. And the second one for the third column, go for Cascade Point. Final blows or sustained precision hits with another weapon increases this weapon's rate of fire for a short duration. So from either of those 2 perks you can choose from, but for me, I would recommend going for Envious Assassin. And on the fourth column, be sure to go for Bait and Switch. Deal damage with all equipped weapons within a short period of time to give this weapon a damage boost. And the next one you could go for is Deconstruct. Dealing sustained damage grants bonus damage against vehicles and constructs, and it would also refund ammunition. Damage with primary ammo or against constructs provides additional progress. So basically this perk would just give you heavy ammo out of thin air. But for me, in my personal opinion, go for Bait and Switch. And the origin trait for this grenade launcher is Indomitability. Final blows grant grenade energy when playing a light subclass or melee energy when playing a dark subclass. So in this case, we are using solar, so we are going to be getting grenade energy whenever we get kills from this grenade launcher. And let me show you guys which of the seasonal artifacts that would buff the Tommy's Matchbook. On the second column, it's called Kindling Trigger. Radiant causes solar weapons to apply Scorch to unscorched combatants. And yeah, we are going to be scorching targets already with the Tommy's Matchbook, but just by having this, we're going to be applying more Scorch stacks to targets even more. On the third column I chose to put is Flint Striker. Rapid solar weapon precision hits and rapid solar weapon final blows grants Radiant. In this case, we're mostly worrying about weapon precision hits. The next one on the third column is Torch. While Radiant deal increased weapon damage to combatants affected by Strand and Stasis debuffs, but in our case, it's Strand. On the fourth column, go for Revitalizing Blast. Causing damage with a solar ability weakens champions and bosses for a short duration. To debuff targets, you can only use your solar melee ability or your super for this build. And lastly, on the fifth column, go for Rays of Precision. While Radiant solar precision final blows causes combatants to ignite. Now let's head to the stats. Your main priority for this build is to go for mobility, because one, we are on Hunter, so it would reduce the cooldown of your class ability, and it would also increase your movement speed at the maximum jump height. And your second stat, of course, for PvE, if you are using this in endgame content, you gotta go for Resilience. Here's what I was using for this build. For the helmet, I am using Special Ammo Finder, so it would give us a higher chance to find special ammo. I'm using Dynamo. Whenever we dodge near an enemy, it will reduce our super cooldown. And lastly, I am using Harmonic Siphon. Whenever we get a double kill or more, it will drop an Orb of Power, but in this case, the only way for us to proc this one is by using the Tommy's Matchbook. On the gauntlets, I mostly put this for like my melee ability, so I put Heavy Handed. Your powered melee final blows will create an Orb of Power. And the next one is Impact Induction. Whenever I cause damage with a powered melee attack, it will reduce my grenade cooldown. And same thing for the next one, which is Focusing Strike. It would grant class ability energy whenever we cause damage with our powered melee ability. So it's kind of like a 2-in-1. And for the chest armor, I just put resist mods. So in this case, I put Harmonic Resistance, which ties to my super, so it is solar resist. And also it's cheap as well. It will reduce incoming solar damage from combatants, and the other two are Arc Resistance and Void Resistance. For the leg armor, I put Recuperation because that's my favorite mod in the game, because whenever we pick up an Orb of Power, it would give us health. And for the last two armor mods for the legs, I put Innervation and Insulation. So whenever we pick up an Orb of Power, it will reduce reduce our class ability and also our grenade cooldown. And lastly, for the Hunter Cloak, I put Powerful Attraction. Whenever we dodge, it would collect nearby orbs of power. The next one is Reaper. Whenever we dodge and we were to get a weapon final blow afterwards, it will drop an orb of power. And lastly, I put Special Finisher. Whenever we finish a target, if we have 3 stacks of armor charges, we will generate special ammo for me and to my teammates. So you're mainly going to be using your exotic weapon to cause ignitions and scorch, and whenever you're low on health, be sure to dodge or use your healing grenade. But your healing grenade, be sure to keep an eye on that one because you may kill yourself with gunpowder gamble. But if you do want to get tons of restoration, be sure to heal yourself with your healing grenade and get as many kills as possible to extend the duration for restoration. And as soon as you have that, you're pretty much not going to be worrying about the exotic helmet because of that fragment. If you guys did find this helpful or you enjoyed it, be sure to hit that like button and also subscribe. I hope you guys have a good rest of your day, evening, or afternoon. Take care and peace.